Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional, providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hello, I'm Justin Daniels here. I am a corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer and equity partner at the law firm Baker Donaldson. I am passionate about helping companies solve complex cyber and privacy challenges during the life cycle of their business. I am the cyber quarterback, helping clients design and implement cyber plans, as well as help them manage and recover from data breaches.
And this episode is brought to you by Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. Well, today we have a really special guest, and we have had so much fun talking that we're just going to dive right on into it.
Okay, we're not going to discuss that this is a new shirt you're wearing today?
Nope, not really. We're going to skip that.
Okay.
So,
it's a great new shirt.
Alrighty then.
We're going to bring back to the show Michelle Dennedy, who is a longtime privacy professional. She's held many leadership roles in data strategy and privacy at Sun, Oracle, McAfee, Intel, Cisco, startup companies, and she has turned CEO at PrivacyCode.ai and partner at Privatus Online. So Michelle, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I love when our mutual friends are like, you guys should really meet Jody and Justin. I'm like, oh yeah. Ooh, they sound really smart. They're like, yeah. And so I say, hey guys, I've been reintroduced to you again.
And we are grateful. But there is so much exciting things that you are working on. And so Justin's going to kick it off for us.
Do it.
Indeed, I will. So for those of our listeners who didn't catch the earlier episode last year, listeners can check that one out. Can you briefly tell us about your incredible privacy career that brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, briefly is hard for me. I will be as brief as possible. My partner is laughing. She's like, Michelle, don't do it brief. I am trained as an attorney. I was a patent litigator last century. And at the turn of the century, we won't talk all through 24 years of it, I switched into data privacy because I was at Sun Microsystems. And it really is, it will zoom us through this timeline because it was the synergy of patent law, copyrights, trademark, M&A practice, technology, IoT, distributed computing, the dot-com, recession, resurgence, and now. So speeding forward is like, what does a privacy professional do through this weird tunnel? If you're old enough to remember the $6 million man running through the tunnel. Michelle Dennedy was there, sometimes as a chief privacy officer, sometimes as a chief governance officer, building something that we called the grid, which we renamed the cloud. And suddenly people thought it was cool. And then I stood up a security and privacy sales practice. Then I went on to try to glue together the cultures of McAfee, Intel, and do a privacy reverb or restart something at McAfee once they were owned by Intel, and that incantation of them, culture each strategy for brunch people. And it was a long brunch. In that culture and business imperative, in that era of time, that's when all the Snowden revelations and the kind of collapse of the vague détente of European and US privacy relations started to break apart. So Schrems 1 happened, and we started to realize that not only could we not just paper our way through privacy, we had to really integrate privacy, technology, pragmatic policy. And so really the rise of the data protection officer, the rise of the privacy professional, and the awareness of businesses. And of course, in 2018, the granddaddy GDPR popping up, turning this into a real profession with board level awareness of privacy. And so in that period, we published the Privacy Engineers Manifesto. A couple of standards have kind of spun out of that work. And it brings us to today is when I left Cisco, I first did a visual data analytics company. It was a little too soon, a little too fast for the privacy world. So we said, let's go back down to basics and let's build an operating system for privacy. And so that's what we've done. We've built a company is called PrivacyCode.ai. It was built with machine learning. We use large language models to actually do our work and accelerate not just the size of the requirements library that we have, but also the speed and agility so that anyone can come in as a new person in privacy and security, data quality, or ethics. And instantly you're working like an expert. And if you're coming in as an expert into the platform, you can be a unicorn with sparkles coming out of your horn very quickly.
Well, I really like being a unicorn. So that's cool. And you brought us into AI, which is now the conversation that's happening everywhere, especially in privacy. So what are some of the big privacy and security risks that companies might not be thinking about yet?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't help myself and say AI hasn't actually happened yet, to be really dorky about it, because AI is supposed to be artificial intelligence and you're supposed to pass the Turing test. So if you want to nerd out with your techie people, go in there and tell them that AI doesn't exist and they will love you. And then get over yourself and call it AI again, because that's what we're calling it. What are we talking about with AI? In particular, generative AI. So AI, as we're talking about it right now in the kind of the wide land, can be considered as very large data learning sets coming together. And they're no longer the Googles and the Facebooks and the Experians who have been gathering data on their own platforms. Every time you click, you give data. Every time you use your credit card, you give data, whether you like it or not. These large models have been created by crawling the net as it exists today, whether or not they have the right to do so, gathering data together, and then presenting an interface. Particularly, I'm talking about generative AI or ChatGPT or Bard or U.com or some of these platforms today, so that a consumer of this platform can simply prompt it and say, not even just a search, and say, please write me a letter of an apology for talking too much on the podcast today. And it will send this thing in my voice that sounds, it will be too long, of course, but it will send me a nice letter and I can send it to you guys after the pod. And the beauty of that from the consumer perspective is, just takes so much administrative work. It looks and sounds like me. I don't have to do cover letters. I don't have to do NDAs. I don't even have to do contracts. I'm not going to call Justin anymore. It's going to tell me what the citation of the law is. Accept. It's going to lie to you, people. It's going to lie. It's going to lie. So part of risk number one, these models were created to sound really smart. They are that guy that you sit in a meeting with who is always talking too much, who says a lot of nonsense. And you're sitting there going, I'm pretty sure that's bull, but it sounds so good. And I'm with an English guy. Trust me, you bring that David Attenborough soundtrack on it, he could tell me it's nighttime now. ChatGPT sounds so factual. And if it gives you a citation, it sounds so real. So it presents facts that are unpeeled in a way that even Wikipedia, which already was a sort of a dangerous place because it feels like there's citations there, and it gives facts where you know that you're going on the National Enquirer, you kind of have an expectation of quality of journalism, or you're going on, the Lancet for medical advice. So some of the dangers are source, some of the dangers are accuracy, some of the dangers are we, the people coders, haven't considered things like bias. And to us privacy professionals, where'd you get all that data? Where'd you get that data? It's not legal. A lot of that is not legal. So there's a billion more risks, but that's a good grab bag.
I had someone tell me yesterday they were so proud of themselves. They used ChatGPT to develop a cookie policy and a privacy policy, and they were all set and posted it. My response was, I highly recommend that you have that reviewed by a privacy professional, whether it is internal or external. But please have someone review that, because there's so much that you would need to ask that it's not going to know. There's so much nuance of what might be happening on a site as well that would not have been captured. Maybe a great starting point and easier to edit than starting from scratch. But that's kind of where we are. You have people who are using it and they think that that's one and done.
I think you raised the perfect point. I love that people are at least saying, instead of creating a myth in their mind of other voices saying, well, who cares about privacy anyway, because they're really afraid of it. It's like an insecurity. Because when you get down to it and you talk to people about privacy, every single person cares about privacy. Of course they do. But there's like an insecurity that they don't really understand what it is or what it entails or what to do. And I might have to call a lawyer, and it's also inconvenient. And it's almost like taxes or writing my will. And so I like that you can go into the quietness of your chat and create a cookie policy and create a policy. But you have to understand exactly what Jody, what you've just said is bang on. Take that rough draft, take it to your lawyer, take it to your technologist, and say, let's start the conversation with this very rough draft. It's like when you bring in 7 hairstyles to your hairdresser and you say, I want this. And I have done this a million times. And
Justin has too. You've brought multiple hairstyles to the barber, haven't you?
What do you mean? Bowl cut number 3?
Exactly. Like he wants 2 on the side, 5 on the top.
There's no flair here. I can't do the pigtails, put the ponytail up, make it straight. I'm bowl cut number 3, however AI wants to cut it.
I'm cut number 3.
Really?
Well, exactly.
I don't know.
There are things I cannot do. I can bring a picture of like Taylor Swift's legs. They cannot install those legs on me. I am a corgi, and a corgi I shall be. So you can bring that policy into Jody and go, this is my new policy. And she's like, oh, no. You're a startup that does mental health care for children, and you take in videos. You cannot do a disclaimer. You want to do a piece of hardware that's a TV that has sensors in it that gathers data about everyone walking in my room. You can't just say the price of the TV is all your data. True case out in the wild.
So I guess, Michelle, here's what I want to ask about a little bit, which is, I'm sure you read about last week where 7 of the big CEOs went to the White House and they came up with voluntary principles for AI.
So sweet.
Indeed. And my question is, with all this money trashing or, sloshing around Silicon Valley and all these companies wanting to be the market leader in AI, and given our history where you see how privacy and security get short shrift with social media, we can pick a technology. What gives you any comfort as both a privacy professional and also as an entrepreneur that there won't be pressures brought to bear or just market forces saying, hey, I'll worry about this privacy and security later when it's a cost of doing business so I can be a market leader?
It's
Love
already
to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's already happened. I mean, I think it was fascinating to watch, and I won't say the name because we all know who it is. One of them troops over without any sort of mission statement, without a broken down statement of ethics, without an understanding of what framework of ethics. Is it Western? Is it Eastern? Is it Hobbes? Is it Kant? Is it Aristotle ethics? Like all of these things have meaning structurally as well as philosophically to your build. What is your point of view on what this means? Because this is a fragile technology in many ways, and it is a bomb in many ways. There is an existential threat to facts that don't have any context, but sound like they're coming, written on stone tablets from God. And that's where we're at, right? We've sort of, technology has become our secular religion. I think that's the biggest existential threat of a lot of this stuff, is it's really easy to propagate bad facts with known idiots. Now, if you take the idiot layer away and you give it, Helen Mirren's voice, holy hell. So I think hearing people go to DC and go, we need a special agency in earnestness, and then not more than 5 days later, turn up in Brussels and say, we can never be regulated. How dare you? Huh? And then not see anyone in Africa and not see anyone in China. Like, do we think that there aren't any humans that live there? Is this the 12th century again? No. This is something that we really need to have a debate over. I'm not saying that it can't be regulated. I'm not saying that it should not be regulated. But I think that someone who's already unleashed something that they haven't been willing to disclose transparently, they haven't been able to put out a debate on the table of what regulation would look like, other than if you're not a really, really rich guy backed by billionaires that work in secret, that seems to be the only rule right now. And that's silly. We all know that's silly. And silly is not even a good word for that. What that is, it's not technology, it's not mathematical. So the scientists should be angry about that. Parents should be angry about that. The lawyers should certainly be angry about that. So I think we need to figure out what do we want to kind of shape this thing. And the only thing that I am very, very loudly advocating against is doing nothing and waiting for someone else to do it, because they will do it to us.
Anything you wanted to add?
I guess what I wanted to add, kind of on your point, Michelle, is, in our country, it seems like the one agency that has power already would be the FTC, with fair or unfair and deceptive trade practices. But I struggle, given the history of how social media went down. I mean, Section 230, public policy, HIPAA, those laws are from 1996. It's almost like Congress has abdicated their role to put guardrails around the 21st century economy, and AI will be the culmination of all of the bull, entering color metaphor, that went before it. So I just, as an entrepreneur who's in this space and you're trying to do the right thing because you're very privacy focused, it has to be very frustrating to look at what some of these other companies that are deep pocketed, backed, to your point, they go to the US and say one thing, but now they're heading over to Europe in front of the regulators in Europe and saying the exact opposite. I feel like that whole thing at the White House was just propaganda to pay lip service that we're going to do something, but the reality is no.
It was bizarre to me, because I thought, do they not know, like, Twitter is not in great shape, but some of us still at least get the feed. Like, did he think we wouldn't see? It's like a little boy hiding behind a fig leaf. Like, oh, you can't see me. I'm in Europe now. It was just weird. I think that the thing that should offend every person in power, I mean, forget the powerless ones. They're just like, they don't even know what's coming. It's a tsunami. The ones in power should be very upset that we need to bring in not just the FTC, because I think they are so overwhelmed by what has to be done just in the laws that they have. And I think 230 is a great example of that there are people that are paid millions and millions of dollars, with a portmanteau of some other job, and their only role is to say that we are just a pipe and not responsible for any of our actions. I think the interesting player in this, at least in the US, is the SEC. I'm interested that they are talking about the SolarWinds responsibility. I think it's interesting about, talking about what is material at a board level, and is materiality strictly dollars and cents to the shareholder, or is materiality something else. And I think that debate is very difficult because we've been, since the 33 and 34 acts, it's really been about, return to the shareholder or fraud against the shareholder. And even in the Elizabeth Holmes case, she's not in jail because she hurt people. She hurt people. People thought that their cancer was gone, and she told them it was back. People were scheduling their funerals and calling their families with saying goodbye because that was my bleep. Just to get another round. But that's not what she went to jail for. She went to jail for defrauding what's his face and what's her face. It's offensive. So I think we need to figure out, what is this SEC going to do? They do strike, and they strike fast. FTC takes a long time. By the time they strike, they give a 20-year, naughty slap on the hand, and it gives time for these companies to grow a security business. I mean, Microsoft reacted the way you want regulation to react. They lied about their security posture. FTC gave them a 20-year sentence, and out of that grew a really strong security practice. So that's good. But how often did that happen?
So let's bring it to what companies can do today. Tell us more about PrivacyCode and what can companies do?
Yeah. So, I know we got to, Justin, you brought me to a dark place, my friend, but not to a dark place. The good news is, the great news
she blamed you.
What?
I know.
She blamed you, not me. Just saying, I'm the happy place.
We were
Michelle, you've caused rancor between the co-hosts.
Never.
Oh no, rancor. I'm very happy, but we're bringing it back to Michelle.
Go, Michelle. This is about
Michelle is going to talk to us about what companies can do and more about PrivacyCode.
We'll have a little therapy along the way. I love this. We'll bring it all back together. Everyone will just be mad at me. That's typically how this goes. No, I think that the good news is, there have been people working not just on AI, on real AI, on machine learning, on computer vision, on the trolley car problem in ethics, on the AI and the machine learning for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, I think it's amazing to talk to folks that have been doing this. They're sort of alarmed at the publicity. Like, they're sort of amazed by they're like, what? I've been sitting here, Montreal has this amazing AI group, and Stanford and some of these places. And these guys have been begging for grant money for 30 years. And they're like, what? So the good news is, we have people with boots on the ground, and when they called it things like data quality, systems engineering, wicked problem solving, statistical fidelity, fairness, bias, all of these things, there's a lot of deep practitioner level and particularly academic research. So interestingly, because we do have these types of machine learning things, there's a lot of academia that has been sort of stuck. And so ironically, and I think it's going to both irritate and delight them, we can actually free up some of this thinking with generative AI. So some of this academia of, how do we actually think about what are the rules and parameters of bias? What do we mean when we say bias? And this isn't this idiotic perversion of the term wokeness. I don't even know what it means. It used to be something nice that I was awake and aware of other people's feelings. Now, apparently it's something terrible that I'm overly sensitive. So it's not about correcting for bias to be politically correct or to be harming one group to harm another. It's really understanding, what is your data model actually doing? We can do that today. So for one thing, we can understand, as privacy professionals, the source of our data. Is the source of our data the laws about privacy? And is the goal of our data to illuminate the tasks that must be unlocked by breaking down those laws and those regulations and those recommendations within those laws, so that it can be read by a practitioner? If that is our goal and that is our data set, it is not only possible, it has been done, that you can put that into a library and you can assign it weighted values and you can put it into a place where you can read in a policy that came off of a chat bot, and it can say, here's what that policy says in GDPR speak, or here's the activities that would imply, if you're going to say this out loud in your policy, this is what must be happening in your enterprise, across your enterprise, and across time. And then you get to work. So it's possible to first use generative AI to our favor. And then the second part is understanding and breaking down AI instead of this monolith of risk and fear and telling your teams not to use it, breaking down and looking at the data supply chain that is available, because all of your CEOs want to use this technology. It is irresistible to have the voice of God telling you which tennis shoe to buy, because your buyers are going to want to buy that shoe. So you're not going to say, don't use this to write your catalog descriptions. You're going to potentially want that. So you're going to want to break down, what is that supply chain? Do we have access to this? Do we have the proper rights to use this stuff? Are we refreshing the library? Is there anyone who knows what the provenance of data is? Are we mixing? For decades, we've been doing data swamping and putting things efficiently into large scale compute bubbles. Access and control is critical again. Security is absolutely paramount. Understanding the who and having a system of record, so you know over time who, what, why, where, when, and having that system of record for you, so that, God forbid, the Daniels family wants to go on vacation. That doesn't mean that all the wisdom about your data center goes to the lake to go fishing. It actually lives somewhere in a place where you can look at, what's the program look like? What do the products look like? What do the services look like? And you can unpeel who built this, what vendor was that, what does it mean? And you can look at the supply chain of data. And I think that's the promise of AI, is that you can have specialty work. Instead of saying that we're going to anonymize our way out of privacy, that never was going to be possible, because humans, we like to know each other. Instead, you can actually have services where you really know somebody and you really commit to personalization, and you protect and honor that circle of trust with the proper tools and the proper honor that it deserves. And then when it's gone and that relationship is over, so I go to a nice bougie restaurant, that waiter's not going to follow me home. I don't get to show up in the kitchen tomorrow night and grab something out of the fridge. We've had our moment. It's over. We know when it's over, it's all cleared out. And your data sets should be in a similar way. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. Everyone's had a lovely experience. It's documented. You're done.
And it's just as simple as that. Yeah. Beginning, middle, end, documented, done.
There it is. Okay.
See how easy this is?
Indeed.
There's no conflict.
So, Michelle, with all of that in mind, when you're not out there doing privacy, thinking very thoughtfully about all of this, tell us about a fun activity you've enjoyed or are about to enjoy this summer.
I am going to be glittering. I'm going to see a T-Swizz, which I didn't know was a thing. And I've become a Swiftie, which I also didn't know. I have a clear plastic purse.
That is very important to have.
I did not know. I'm going to
go. The stadiums don't believe in privacy. We believe in physical security.
Exactly.
You therefore have to have a clear purse to be able to show everything.
And that could be a great privacy tip.
That's true.
An anti-privacy tip of the clear to make sure you can get into the concert or the NFL game.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I didn't know that this was a thing until last time. I lied to you guys before we got on the call. I thought the last concert I went to was U2 in the 80s, but I actually went to a Luke Bryant show with my friend Cynthia, and I had the really nice bag. I don't have many nice bags. And they were like, oh, that's going to have to stay here. And I was like, oh, no, it's not. No. And there was a line of really, really nice bags. I was like, I don't want to go to the concert. Let's pick the bag we want and run. So I did get this because I'm going to go see Taylor Swift. I'm in the second row. I am going to be waving up at Tay Tay going, bravissimo.
Well, send me some video, because I think I'm the only mom in Atlanta who did not take her kids to the Taylor Swift concert.
Okay, I don't like people. You could have come with me if you were out here, Jody. I would have taken you.
I know. Maybe someone has like a private jet and I can like fly across country, because if I make it to the Atlanta airport, it will take me the entire time to make it through the airport because it's so crazy here. But I'll probably just have to stick with the video. So there's so much to cover. Everyone listening, Michelle is a wealth of knowledge. You want to make sure that you are following her and learning more about PrivacyCode. So Michelle, where can we send everyone to keep up with all of your amazing information?
Go to privacycode.ai. The information there about the product is a little bit coy still. We're trying to get a little bit more descriptive of the product, but there's a demo button. Hit that demo button. And if you're building a program, if you're trying to go deeper in privacy engineering, if you want to know how to build a process to do responsible AI, or if you want to do a data governance council, all of this stuff is interrelated. We have libraries for all of that stuff. And we have really good know-how partners like Red Clover to help you walk through the process.
Well, we are so grateful that you are here to be able to help explain AI, the beginning, middle, and end, all the documentation, everything that you've described, your very fun analogies. And we're so glad that you were here.
So
Thank
clean.
you.
I was so PG today. I was so well behaved.
Well, we are a PG rated podcast, so it worked out well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Yes. Thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.